Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm excited to share the progress of Flamethrower Trap. I'm thankful for all of the comments. I've incorporated many changes, so without further ado, let's get trapping. Also, please like and subscribe if you enjoy this series. The campaign is over, it's time for maps. Kirak has the first one for me. I opened the portal. Thanks Kirak, much appreciated. In that map, a mercenary almost kills me with bleed, but I make it to the final boss, kill him, and that is the first map done. My damage output seems decent, so I decide to make the maps rare, slot in any scarab that I find, and juice them right from the get-go. Foul side areas remain a priority as they drop linked gear, like this 5 link. I don't have the attributes for this, however. Mana is definitely an issue right now, so I craft an enduring mana flask. A Merc offers great boots with res and movement speed. The blue-blue-red setup I use for automation, immortal call and arcane surge to constantly proc arcane surge and have it up permanently. I find a 25% quality life flask, spam alterations until I get instant recovery and use beast crafting to get the bleed immunity suffix. I decide to use concentrated effect to scale the flat damage of the skill itself rather than having added lightning damage support, which only gets 30% added damage effectiveness. It does reduce the AoE a bit, but it is a lot of extra damage. I also start using advanced traps, which has massive cooldown reduction, meaning I can use the skill a lot more often. Some of you pointed that out in the comments as well, so thanks for that. A Merc offers a great amethyst ring, which I gladly take. It's a ton of res. I benchcraft the boots from before, and I use all my armor as scraps on my gear. I get chaos orbs from a Merc before chaos damage gets me. I offer my supple flesh to a Merc, which he gladly consumes.
Such supple flesh.
Here is some single target damage on the tier 2 boss and she drops a 5 link. Pure evasion, this is excellent news. I use 2 chromes, craft flat evasion, use a few armorers until I run out, and this is a massive upgrade. I'm using flamethrower, more duration, conk effect, trap and mine damage and advanced traps in this setup while you see me evading expedition monsters. Talking about league mechanics, as long as it is in a small circle, you're gonna be fine. Ritual, ultimatum, expedition in small spaces, that's all great. Breach and legion, not so much. I get a replica dragon fangs, but never lucky. It's time for a sizable respec. I will be investing more in charges as announced last episode, and I'm taking Ghost Dance as well, despite having very little energy shield. I am a bit less tanky after this swap, but I do have 5 frenzy charges and power charges. I think I'm dropping trap unique boots, which I do kind of, but it's not what I thought it was. I get the 15% life if body armor has no life mods, which it hasn't. Here is my initial Atlas tree. I decided to go Ritual pretty much straight away. Ritual is great for this build and it's great in general, I feel, in SSF. Blight isn't too bad either, by the way, if you can create a choke point with a bunch of flames. I drop unique velvet gloves, which is Doedri's tenure, reduced cast speed, which doesn't impact me at all, but it also has 100% spell damage, which does impact me for sure. So I decide this is a decent unique for now. I slot in that immortal call automation setup and decide to automate phase run as well. What I didn't realize until a few maps later is that this consumes frenzy charges, which is bad. I want to have frenzy charges, not consume them. So a little later I remove phase run again. Because my chaos res is so low, I decide to run an amethyst flask instead of a mana flask, see if I have enough regen. I kinda do, as you can see in this harvest footage, thanks to a high level clarity and some mana reservation on the passive tree. This build isn't bad for harvest either, by the way. This is a tier 3 map, I reach level 81, I drop the Jaws of Agony shield with a bear trap inside of it. I contemplate using that, but I can't really see a way to justify it. I find a homie for a little bit, and Ritual never disappoints by offering a 6 link. Good luck coloring that, however, and I don't have good luck, so it is a 5 link for now. I get all these fire nodes over here. A Merc offers a great amulet with attributes and crit. I identify a pretty decent jewel. I equip that amulet and the heavy belt I still had waiting for an opportunity to shine, and all of this devolved into a gearing challenge to stay res capped. After realizing I can upgrade the lightning res on my shield, we're good to go. The result? More attributes, more resistances, and for the first time positive chaos resistance. The next gearing challenge is already upon us, however. I managed to get 2 green colors on that 6 link of before, meaning the gems I use right now are Flamethrower Trap, more duration, conk effect, elemental focus, trap and mine damage, and increased crit. It's not exactly an ideal setup for sure, but I believe it to be better than the 5-link. I use a few essences, craft lightning resistance, and while the armor piece doesn't fit the build, I feel having a 6-link outweighs the cons. I take on Coral Ruins for freeze immunity. During that run I decide I like advanced traps more than more damage. Ritual offers an offering to the goddess, I get my freeze immunity, and it's time for the lab. I get 2 dark shrines. Izaro takes a ton of damage. Single target looks pretty good. Traps are disabled. What could go wrong?
Justice is served.
An Empyrean apparatus drops 3 unique maps, thanks Empyrean, and Ritual keeps on giving an evasion-based 6-link, thanks Ritual. First, some essences, this isn't bad, life, res and strength. The colors with 1 blue and 1 red will have to do as I'm out of chromes. I use some armor scraps, linked flamethrower trap to more duration, conk effect, advanced traps, trap and mine damage, and after some browsing, hypothermia. My skitterbots chill and 20% more damage with hits seem decent. Ritual offers a new weapon, it's very good, +1, bunch of crit, bit of flat damage. I craft trap throwing speed on it. It also offers another offering, but I'm traumatized now. I complete some unique maps, but don't prioritize Atlas completion at all. I have bigger fish to fry using flamethrowers. I get the Chaos and Elemental Resist craft, which is huge. I tinker with the 6-links some more, get 2 blues and a red, so I swap Hypothermia for Elemental Focus for a bit more damage. I craft some of that new recipe on my gear and as a result I'm now at 23% Chaos Res. I use the little Eldritch currency I have on the 6-link, some damage, an energy shield, movement speed on the boots and flat spell damage on the helmet. None of these are great, but I like to use the currency that I have in Solar Found. I get a bit more life and spell suppress on the tree. It doesn't save me from ritual balls however. I have some oils, so I anoint trickery, that's cheap for now. I almost died to this mercenary but get rewarded with a bunch of currency. I do another small passive tree respec. I craft a decent jewel and then ruin it. Ritual offers a flamethrower trap with 20% quality, which is gonna come in handy, so I will level that in the offhand. I reached a point in the run where bosses in tier 10 maps go down pretty easily. To give you some reference, I get a 12% quality Immortal Call and these very decent boots with an incursion mod, or this fractured tier 2 spell suppression, or this one from a merc. No shortage of boots to wear. Ultimately I go with these. Craft double res so my res starts to look decent, color them, some Eldritch currency and they're good to go. I get the increased effect of auras, which isn't bad for grace and clarity and maybe for skitterbots. And again, Ritual provides another 6-link. It's a better base, so that should be a lot more evasion. It's not a bad roll either. However, I don't have any currency right now to craft on it, so I have to stash it for now. I have taken an interest in ancient Vaal archaeology. Unfortunately, they've also taken an interest in me. It's nice to be popular, but this is a bit much. I also get an Eclipse Solaris for a future homie. It's Voidstone time, and it only takes a minute to take down Stargirl. I think that is not bad at all. I have 1 death because of an avalanche, and I don't have great defenses, but the damage part of this is quite decent I would say. I'm happy at least with this, especially after Fireball Ignite. After Stargirl, it's Hunger Boy. This does take a bit longer because he goes underground where I can't damage him and he phases where I drown in shit and there's poison everywhere with me having only 35% chaos res, so it's far from a great encounter. But once he is stationary and the beams hit him, the DPS hits pretty hard, all things considered. Again, I'm pretty happy about that as it also means that I'm halfway towards the 2 Voidstones. It's time to automate some flasks. I use Defender recipe to get more instilling orbs. I roll flask suffixes for crit, evasion and reduced curse effect. These 3 will be automated. For a 4th flask I use diamond for the crit, but I can't automate it yet. A merc drops a great helm with a lot of resistances, and after a life craft and coloring it is an improvement. I encounter our good buddy Egan and I'm contemplating if I should do this content. I think so, as this is intended as a boss killer build after all, or at least I think it is. Someone organized a surprise party in the sewers. I don't like surprises. I make it to the top of the tower and retrieve an invitation. It's time to get the first Voidstone and do a DPS check. Again, pretty serviceable damage, because you've seen my gear and passive and gem links, it's far from optimized. But still, single target with these overlapping flamethrowers works quite well. I throw a few bear traps in there, reapply curses when I can. I only die once and then I notice how little life the boss has left, which triggers me to incorporate a culling strike into the build, especially good on bosses of course. I link it to flame dash, that's a fairly safe bet. I go in and flame dash through the boss and there it is, Voidstone number 1. I drop a divine, I get 2 more offerings from the lab, decide to give it another go. It is a day later at this point after the incident. I decide to take bomb specialist for more damage. I will fix this ascendancy later I think. And the altar offers a transfigured gem, but I haven't prepared anything, so I ultimately just end up using gem XP, which levels the gem to level 20, and 8% quality, which sets the quality to 20. I reach level 89, drop a leer cast, get chased out of the map by some very territorial enemies, and this is not an exception. I am often running for my life, but we'll get to that. First things first, however, as I get another invite from somewhere, and here is Eater of Worlds. Now, this boss definitely moves around a little bit more, so my build is less effective. However, the moments he is stationary, which is a big conditional factor in these boss fights, he does take a lot of damage. I think this fight overall illustrates really well the pros and cons of Flamethrower Trap and Saboteur to an extent. It's not that hard to build around, it does decent but very conditional damage, it's squishy and it uses Culling Strike on Flame Dash to seal the deal. And that's also the second Voidstone. There's a bit of an issue with the build however, especially around this time, while I'm progressing toward high tier red maps. And the issue is quite straightforward, let me enlighten you. In short, my defenses turn out to be as solid as Pirate Software's coding skills. This is simply something I need to solve one way or another. Phys max hit in PoE states 3500, which is abysmal. I don't have a solution straight away, gear isn't great, but it is a concern and the game constantly reminds me about it. On the bright side, now that I gathered 2 Voidstones, I feel I've earned a reward, some MTX perhaps. I decide to get some fire-inspired pieces, plus Lord Ogham's Cape from the current MTX bundle. Here's the build in action after some of the MTX are applied, and I think it looks quite good. I don't have MTX for the skills, so those will be vanilla. I find a blood price for the homie, and a Perkle's Toe from ritual, also for the homie. Trapstarer's gloves, also from the ritual, which I take just in case. I drop another Dodri's tenure, which I craft on a bit and decide to corrupt it. I hit Enfeeble on hits, that should help a bit with tankiness, and I'm very surprised to learn that the hits from my traps count as my hits, as they apply Enfeeble. I thought traps were proxies, just like minions or totems, but I guess not. This opens up some build options. I finally automate my last flask, the diamond for crit. I reach level 90. I get an Ash Collar wand for the homie, covered in ash is big for fire damage. I vendor a bunch of quality gems, vendor swap a few support gems to make them 20% quality, and it's time for a new chapter. I create a boss rushing Atlas tree, rename the tree appropriately, think I am ready, but I am not ready because I die. I'm working on my rapping career, can you tell? I haven't fixed much in terms of defenses, 6 portals are in fact a good friend right now, but I'm determined to figure out if this can be a solid bosser, so I might as well get to it. I should really farm some levels, but hey, in my defense, 4 map bosses in this tiny area is pretty messed up. And it's not just this map, I'm dying left and right, boss after boss. I was definitely out of range for Vertania's slam, I mean there's no doubt about that, but most of the time, despite this looking pretty bad, I do manage to kill these bosses. Is it fun? Well, I know you probably can't get enough of me dying, so I guess for you it is. You're probably enjoying me suffer right now. The Dutch specialized in that form of entertainment, we even have a special word for it. But for me, it's perhaps not fun, but it's fine because I know there are plenty of improvements still in the pipeline. The build is not done and I'm kinda happy I can simply get some fragments. I get an Omen of the Jeweler, may come in handy should I find a body armor. Map bosses go down more smoothly as support gems level up. Well, sometimes. Not in this case, because this situation has escalated entirely. I am being chased by a bunch of golden boys and while that can be a good thing, today it's not. I must abort this endeavor. Remember that 6 link from some time ago? I finally get some more currency to craft on that. Throw some essences at it. I hit 2 good evasion rolls and a tier 4 life. I don't have that much more currency, so I'll take it. I color it, craft strength on it, hit all res implicit and some energy shield, and it is a 2150 evasion, a decent upgrade. It's these upgrades that make the build feel a bit more tanky so that bossing becomes more comfortable. You've seen some Guardian fights, but now let's take on the new pinnacle content. Starting with Mini Cirrus. Let's see how this build performs. Cirrus is of course not a great boss, as he constantly moves around and I'm still not Chaos Res capped, which isn't helping either, but for the most part I feel pretty good about this. It takes a little over 2 minutes. Regarding the loot, I just throw a bunch of essences at it, as the chances of getting good rolls are very high, proven by this helmet. It's pretty insane. I craft it, but it poses some gearing challenges that I solve by some more bench crafting, using stuff from the stash that I looted before, that sort of thing. Ultimately, I end up with capped elemental res and 55% chaos res, plus 566 energy shield on top of 3k life. I spec into a crit node and ghost dance on the passive tree. Time for the first real pinnacle boss, the Incarnation of Neglect. The Fireball build kill time was 6 minutes and 55 seconds. Let's see if we can beat that. This guy definitely moves around a lot, that's not great, but still, damage isn't bad. After 3 minutes and 50 seconds, he dies. I mean, I think that's pretty solid. I get a new leather belt from a merc, craft resistances on it. This is not a bad belt at all. I keep bossing until I find Egan again, with me here killing El Hasmin, who drops his orb. Who knows, it may come in handy. Or here, a bunch of normal bosses on a map without mods, sure, but it's still an okay kill time. This goes on for a bit with Drox, who talks about Veritania, I think about love and my rapping career, and I decide I am in fact very lonely and I want a homie. So, as we all recently learned from the rapper community, in order to get one, you go out, fight with her, and then she joins you. You dress her up in your hideout, anoint her with some baby oil, avoid the inner conviction keystone, no convictions required, there's nothing to see here. You give her some gear, some orders, and it's all good. The only thing I'm unsure of is if the homie actually increases my damage. It's still debatable if the pros outweigh the cons here of the boss life going up. I unlock the 5-slot map device, take the homie along for more boss kills. I started picking up Sadist Garbs and Chance Orb them, hoping to get a Tinker skin. I get a Divine. I have a tough choice to make here at the Nameless Seer, but ultimately take the Curse Ring as I want more curses on the homie, and I'm glad I drop a Cosprey's Will, which means another curse. That makes the curse limit 3. I reach level 91, decide to get increased evasion on body armor, run a bunch of Maven invitations after all the bossing that I've been doing with the Shaper and Elder Guardians, the Elder Slayers I do, which is a total mess and I fail, and this makes me rethink my skill setup a bit. Are there some things I could improve perhaps? I do quite some experimenting, for example with Arcanist Brand, which casts my flammability and Bear Trap. But then I figure out you can't use traps with Arcanist Brand, so that experiment largely fails. I went back soon after to Bear Trap level 1 and Flammability, both linked to Life Tap and a Power Charge on crit support, just in case it crits. I feel the automated Immortal Call is perhaps a bit much, although the permanent Arcane Surge is quite nice, but I swap it for a castman damage taken. I also want a source of exposure, so I link castman damage taken not only to Immortal Call, but also to a level 1 Wave of Conviction. The Arcane Surge, I link to Flame Dash. I also reworked the Fire Trap setup thanks to the comment section. Now that I have Fire Exposure from Wave of Conviction, I feel Combustion is less necessary, so I replace that with Swift Assembly, and Fire Trap is then linked to that, to Charged Traps and to Trap and Mine support. I also dropped the homie for now. I'm not convinced she's a good influence on my rapping career. Here's a bit of a test on the Synthesis invite, which is pretty rough for any build, I feel. I do have a few buttons to press, my Bear Trap, Curse, and then 2 more traps, but I still feel it's quite manageable as I made the build from scratch and got used to it over time. It's not bad at all, I think. Plus, these skills all have distinct advantages. I am down to my last portal, however, so I need to focus a bit, but the fight gets a lot easier once 3 out of 4 guys are dead, and ultimately I'm victorious for another Atlas passive point. I line up a bunch of Shaper Guardian maps, reroll one into Minotaur using Horizon Orbs, which you can do since this patch. I do the Maven invite for this as well, which goes quite smoothly, only a few deaths. This is nice and all, but I want to get back to that other endgame instead, so let's get to it. I'm definitely cheating here with this footage because I have a gazillion shrines on me, but hey, that's also part of the game. However, in the moment of trauma, I faced the incarnation of fear. I had my moment of trauma already earlier, but here's a new one. This boss is pretty stationary, and after warming up in which I died twice, the fight begins. I will say at times it's a little difficult to see his abilities as, well, everything is fire. But yeah, it's mostly fine. During most of this fight I managed to place the traps around him and he goes down in a record 3 minutes and 9 seconds. That's pretty good. I find Egan again in tier 16, encounter the deceitful god after running his memory strand, kill this god, and it's time for the last pinnacle boss, in the moment of reverence. I meet this enemy, also very stationary, and let me momentarily bury this memory by wrapping. Okay, I'll stop yapping. I think you know the drill by now. He goes down in record time, 3 minutes and 51 seconds. I witness Step Bro over here and the Atlas turns red. I stay true to the build idea and keep bossing. Here's that same vault map from before with the golden boys Maven witnessed, but you can see the improvements since last time. I endeavor into the synthesis memories as well. It's great for XP and loot, assuming you don't die to bosses. Or to monsters, it's a pretty close call there. And if you're lucky, you get some awakened support gems of course, like vicious projectiles. It's complete trash for my build. Or awakened brutality, it's also complete trash, but it's good for the Guardian SRS, I don't have it yet. I do decide I should try and get to level 95, so I make an Alcian throw tree with character power, blue altars as I'm fire based and some stuff I enjoy running, and start grinding some maps. The bossing gets me killed often enough to prevent me from leveling. I could still use some gear too. I find the meta shield from a merc, which is very lucky, and I just can't help myself by keep doing some more bosses. First, Cortex. After a few minutes I make it. I'm quite happy with that. The shield, while being energy shield evasion, isn't for me. And a little later, Cirrus. This is a much more annoying fight as he constantly moves around, but it's not dangerous and I think I die only once. After 12 minutes, yes 12 minutes, he dies and he drops the gloves. And after one foul orb, the gloves are broken, which is in line with the vision. I drop a pretty decent Syndicus garb and after a bench craft it has 3138 evasion. Could be an upgrade later. I get some new gloves as well, finally replacing Dodri's tenure, and I managed to get trap throwing speed and fire exposure. I assume the latter works as Curse on Hit also works. I craft some new boots using that fractured tier 2 spell suppression of before. I settle for 25% movement speed as it's already quite a big upgrade. I bench craft cold res, get movement speed and movement skill CDR, and these 3 pieces constitute a good chunk of evasion, skilled by my Grace Aura too. I take another jewel socket, slot in a decent jewel I had saved up, get a double Vulcanus from a nameless seer. My support gems start to reach 2020, as I should inflict fire exposure via the gloves. I decided to take the extra 5%, get a divine and a wind scream should I need another curse somehow, and I get a few better Eldritch implicit modifiers as well. I drop a southbound and get a lucky corrupt elemental weakness. I reach level 93. I anoint Instinct to have an easier time capping spell suppress, and as a result I can get rid of all of these nodes and get some crit and life instead. I drop a double puzzle box, I hire a new merc for punishment curses, and I give him all the gear, but I don't like it as much as he is constantly lagging behind compared to the kineticist. And then this happens.
NANI?!
I'm pretty stoked about this. This Sunblast is one of the few trap-related uniques in the game. It also has the perfect duration roll. Throwing 3 traps instead of 1 works for fire trap, but it also works for flamethrower trap, although the latter does consume 3 charges. Before I can return to mapping, I need to fix some resistances, but here you can see the result. 3 flamethrower traps at once. The Sunblast is a huge difference and a big quality of life item all in all. Mapping feels incredibly smooth after this pickup, although I'm not convinced it does all that much for bosses. A little later I also drop Kongming's stratagem, but I don't really see how I can incorporate that into the build right now as I lack resistances. I will get to that though. I keep pushing, doing some more tier 16.5 content. Destructive play plus buffs on map bosses results in situations like this, with 5 scarabs per boss and 4 bosses. It's a nice synergy for sure, but it's time to move on. Let's venture further into the endgame, going on a quest for 4 Voidstones. That means Shapers, Elders, a Maven, the whole shebang. I'm confident though. First, the Shaper, a fight that always takes a while. I've killed a good number of Shapers in my time, and I can say this is not a lot of damage. Despite my efforts, I'm generous I think if I say this is 2 million DPS. I think it's closer to 1 million DPS, and the uptime isn't great either. And that's only the case when the traps are actually placed properly. It takes me a little under 10 minutes to kill this guy, and this is without the homie. For a second Shaper, I do take the homie with me. She applies Covered in Ash, a high level elemental weakness, lucky damage, haste and some increased damage. but after all is said and done, it takes me 10 minutes and 30 seconds for the second attempt, meaning it is about the same time. With or without the homie, it doesn't seem to matter. Then it's time for Elder, and here I come to the realization that I do so little damage that I'm not familiar with this fight's mechanics. I usually phase Elder almost immediately into the portal thing, but now there are these little creatures that are pooping all over the place, and their poop hurts a lot. I don't understand what's going on and why no one cleans up the poop, but no one is, while this arena turns into a waste disposal facility with no room to walk around in. I have completely bricked the fight and I can't kill the Elder. This is another issue with the build. Not only is the damage not high, also the spread of damage is lacking. The clear. My SRS would have been searching these little poop creatures and killed them well before they unload their shit. But with traps, if you don't throw them some traps, they keep pooping. I do learn from this mistake, however. I go again, I bring the homie with me this time because she has a much easier time killing these ads, and after 3.5 minutes the Elder falls and even gets me an Exalted Orb. I'm now short on one fragment, unfortunately, meaning I have to run the Elder Guardians one more time. I run the Elder one more time, and after another 3.5 minutes he dies, and I have all my fragments for the Uber Elder. It's time to slot in the fragments and kill these bastards. But it doesn't exactly happen like that. Now, Uber Elder is no joke a few days into League start, and this fight has a lot of mechanics, including the poop creatures, which I now notice, but also beams, balls, bottles, and I don't even get close to killing these guys. It's a total disaster, really. My perceived boss killer cannot kill these bosses because they move around, there's too many mechanics, it's just bad. There's no way I'm gonna run another double Shaper and Elder, so this Voidstone simply isn't happening. But there is one more hope, Maven. But I'm not exactly confident. I know this fight very well. There are no poop creatures. I think it's an amazing fight and I think this is going to be very difficult. My main issue, however, is damage. Uptime is bad. She jumps around all the time. These fights get harder and harder the lower your DPS is because of the balls and the puddles and later the memory game. I do make it to the final stage, which is by far the hardest, but I don't manage to kill her and I fail the attempt. I go back to the drawing board and start thinking about my sins and several upgrades or changes that I can make. I have no illusion I will reach 5 million DPS. I think the idea of a boss killer is sort of out of the window, but hopefully I can improve several aspects of the build so that it feels good. First, I use this Elder helmet that I got from running all of the Elder maps. You can turn this into a pseudo 5 or 6 link, and I decide to do that with the old-fashioned alteration spam method. And then I end up with this. Conk effect, burning damage, which does something for fire trap and resist. I color it, getting 4 greens isn't easy it turns out. I craft some +1 AoE, which increases fire trap levels. I close my eyes, slam armor and evasion on there, and more resistances. I am still using charged traps on fire trap, which won't work anymore because my traps aren't triggered by enemies thanks to the sunblast, but I only realized that in a little bit. I have some influenced Exalted Orbs, check Craft of Exile if anything would be good or work, and decide the only possible outcome for the Hunter's Exalted Orb on this amulet is Elemental Penetration, which I assume works, so I slam it and this happens. I run a bit of a test on a non-quest incarnation of Fear, meaning he has way more life than the version I fought before. Damage is definitely a little better, but I'm not satisfied really. Kill time is almost 6 minutes. Ironically, my build is quite decent for mapping and running destructive play because it has nice clear. Fire trap does a lot of damage, especially now that it's in the helmet, and flamethrower traps on map bosses feel very good. Pinnacle bosses, however, not so much. And maybe I should simply be accepting of that fact that I've made a decent mapper, not the fastest or tankiest, but a decent mapper which has no issues with tier 16 content and 2 Voidstone. And then just be okay with that because it's not gonna get much better, or at least anytime soon. I do one last change, inspired by more comments from last video. I decided to fully invest into crit and then to try and get 100% crit chance, so I take calculated risk for a lucky crit chance. Also for defenses, I take Born in the Shadows, blinding enemies around me and taking reduced damage from them. That means I lose life regen, some ailment immunity and some AoE. I take Mage Bane, some extra res, I incorporate Kongmin's stratagem into the build, and this is a really cool shield that doesn't block but sets up Fog of War, which is a skill that also blinds enemies, plus it has 42% increased damage against blinded enemies with fire damage. That's a separate multiplier in terms of damage scaling, so this should scale my damage some more, and I also like it that I've been able to use some of the trap related uniques in the build. I think that is simply fun to do, although it may not be super optimal. I think especially Thankfully in SSF it doesn't always happen, so I'm just glad that I found these things and found a way to make it work. I fixed some resistances on gear, make it to 57% chaos res, which is the highest of the run. I upgraded the trap throwing speed on the weapon. I support flamethrower trap with increased crit and crit multi-support gems. I anoint my amulet with silent steps for a more blind effect, really leaning into the blind as a defensive layer. I get rid of ghost dance and I take eldritch battery instead. I try to link fire trap to life tap because it rhymes, which is good for my rapping career, but also because I think it's a good idea, which it is not because I have 0 life regen, so as you can see in this footage I'm slowly killing myself by throwing traps. It really doesn't take long for me to figure out that life tap is not a good idea. I also get rid of clarity as I don't need mana anymore, or mana regen that is, and started running zealotry for more spell damage and spell crit. I try a life gain on kill, simply not knowing if that works with traps, because they do count as your hits, but damage is not reflected to you but to the trap, so is it you or the trap that's killing something? This logic of who does what completely eludes me at this point, so I just decide to test it and it doesn't work. It is the trap that kills, not you. I decided to take some more life and strength and crit over there instead, and I didn't record it, but I put combustion back into fire trap instead of charged traps. I give a merc the Eye of Malice because enemies should have negative fire res with all of the exposure and curses, and if it is negative, the 50% increase applies to the negative value, making it even more negative, and it's time for the final map. The build does feel a lot better. Blind is a great defensive layer actually, I wish I knew that sooner. Damage is increased by quite a bit. All these things aren't easy to quantify, but you can just feel that it is the case, especially if you play the build for this long. Eldritch Battery works, although ideally I get a bit more energy shield so the recharge is a bit better. But it's very manageable as long as I don't spam Fire Trap. Overall, it ended up as a decent, somewhat well-rounded character. I learned quite a bit, never really played the skill or the ascendancy. I'm aware Trickster would have been better, and probably something else would have been too, but I've played Trickster a lot, and part of the fun for me is making a choice, sticking with it, and make do with the best I get in SSF. The end result though, it's not too shabby. I also contemplated bringing this to the main SSF league like I did with Thyworm, but I felt there was a certain charm in keeping this character entirely fresh start. SSF just figured it out and deal with the consequences. No 4 Voidstones, which is a real shame, but hopefully you guys had a good time anyway. I want to thank you all for the support. The last couple of videos have been really good for me and the channel, so thanks for sticking around to the end, for watching, I really appreciate it. I'd love to see you in the next episode. I'm not sure what that's gonna be, but subscribe and like and hit the bell so you don't miss it. Love you all. See you soon. Bye bye.